So let us say, hypothetically, that you watched my last video about Need for Speed Most Wanted. You would then have a lot of questions like, was the sequel any good? Is waterboarding an effective form of interrogation? And how much pee is stored in the balls? Due to my inquisitive nature and generous disposition, I decided that I would find the answers to those questions. This is Need for Speed Carbon. Let's start at the beginning of the game. We get some nice canyon shots outside of Palmont City, and, well, shit, okay. This is the BMW from the previous game. We'll have to start a little further back. In Need for Speed Most Wanted, you start the game with this BMW, only to lose it at the end of the first act. The BMW then becomes a MacGuffin that you spend the rest of the game trying to get back, which you ultimately do. Back to Carbon, and oh my god, we're doing live action cutscenes again. Why are we doing this? Literally, no one wants this. Basically, a few drivers are preparing to race, we get no further context, and the race begins. Now, in the Most Wanted video, I said that Ronnie was driving an Aston Martin DB9, and a few of you said that it was actually a Toyota Supra. So, to all of you, I say,
yeah, well, you know, that's just like, your opinion, man.
Anyway, you're now driving this DB9, which is not to be confused with this DB9 or either of these DB9s. You get out to a small lead, at which point the other 3 cars are disabled by an electric shock. Police collapse on the disabled cars, arresting their drivers. The woman from the very beginning throws a red bag in your car and you take off. Then an audio flashback plays. You know it's a flashback because there's an echo filter.
Look, between the heat and the cruise, you need to walk away. Take my car, go, get out of here.
It turns out, that whole thing was a flashback. Now we're in present-day Carbon Canyon, back in the BMW. And wait, what's this? We're being chased by a Z06? I used to know a guy who drove one of those, but that's probably just a coincidence.
Hey, guess who's back?
Oh my god, it wasn't a coincidence. It wasn't a coincidence at all. Sergeant Cross chases the player character through the canyon, leading into the point where the player assumes control. Like with Most Wanted, the game gives you a little taste of driving the BMW in the Prologue, just to get a feel for the game. Unlike with Most Wanted, the vanilla graphics for this PC port are actually passable, so I didn't bother with mods. If you're wondering whether or not I plan to spend the entire video comparing the game to Most Wanted, the answer is yes, absolutely. Carbon is basically a glorified reskin of Most Wanted, so talking about Carbon in a vacuum leaves out a lot of the picture. Anyway, the player character speeds into a construction site before crashing into a semi, knocking loose its load of pipes, which fall onto the BMW. Then Cross approaches the car.
Sit down! How you been? It's time to settle a little score from Rockport, you think?
I don't remember asking for your help, Croc. What makes you think you can bounty hunt in Silverton without my approval?
It's Cross. Now this guy's from out of town.
Been a long time, kid. What's his bounty?
150K.
David, take care of this guy. So, that's what you've been up to. Nikki, this should be interesting.
How dare you show your face here!
Whoa, 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 hey,
Go, mate.
Control yourself.
This is a long cutscene. I thought you might like an intermission. Please use this intermission to think about that one really embarrassing thing that you did 6 years ago that you can't forget. I bet that everyone that was there still thinks about it regularly. That's really embarrassing. I'll give you 5 seconds alone with that.
I still don't know what happened that night you took off. But I do know you're into me now for some serious cash. Things have been getting a little too close for comfort around here with all these crews battling for new territory. I think I could use someone with your skills to help me out. The way I see things, I bailed you out of a serious jam twice now. Time for you to return the favor. Nikki, what do you say you show your old friend the ropes?
You gotta be joking, right?
You got a better idea? Then let's get him started, right away. Don't disappoint. Not again.
Thanks for waiting up.
Yeah, sure, Nikki. Hey, who's the third wheel?
Doesn't matter. Darius made all these cars available to you. Pick one, whichever one you want.
Hey, if there's three, do I get one? I mean, I don't care which one, although I am partial to the one with the sweet rims.
Why don't you just make sure the tanks are filled?
That's great. I'm the monkey!
Pick one. Let's get this over with.
Okay, so like in the last game, there are 3 cars to choose from at the start. Your decision here affects how the game progresses, but not really. I'll talk more about that later. For now, your choices are the Mazda RX-8, which is a tuner, the Chevrolet Camaro SS, a muscle car, and the Alfa Romeo Brera, an exotic. You make your choice and then compete in a short race, after which you can confirm your choice or make a new one. Then we get another cutscene. Nothing important is actually said during this cutscene, but I do want to talk about it. It's easy to forget now that we are in an era of photorealistic graphics, but there was a brief period where video games would use low-resolution photographs to texture low-poly 3D models, and we all thought that it looked awesome. Anyway, the next race serves as a tutorial for the main mechanic that this game introduces, your crew. In most races, you're accompanied by a crew member who you can use to your advantage. There are 3 kinds of crew members: blockers, drafters, and scouts. Blockers can be used to take out other racers, drafters provide a speed boost when you follow them, and scouts alert you to shortcuts. Blockers and drafters both have a meter that depletes and recharges, much like NOS, but scouts are active at all times. After the tutorial is a short cutscene introducing the police, followed by the game's first police chase. These are largely identical to the police chases from Most Wanted. Don't let the police stop you or you'll be arrested. Hit them hard enough, you disable their car. Put enough distance between you and them, and you'll end the pursuit. Following the pursuit, Neville asks you to meet him at the safe house. When you meet characters throughout the game, they get these cheesy little introduction segments. If it isn't clear yet, Neville is comic relief. Inside of the safe house, we learn a little bit more about crew members. Each crew member has a certain style, a certain skill in their own car, and has unique bonuses. Race bonuses happen after every race for which that crew member is your active wingman, and career bonuses apply as long as the crew member is in your crew. From the crew member screen, you can select your active wingman, customize your crew's cars, and fire and hire crew members. Up next is selecting a logo for your crew and giving it a name. The logo selection is pretty weak. Honestly, Madden has better create-a-team logos, and those are terrible. I did manage to find a logo that I was okay with. Deciding on a crew name was a little bit harder. What's the coolest possible thing I can think of? Fucking nailed it. Next, you get an explanation of how progression works in this game. In summary, the city is divided into districts, each of which have 5 to 7 sections. Each section has 2 or 3 races available, and in order to claim a section, you'll have to win 2 of those races. After conquering every section in a district, you'll have the opportunity to claim the entire district by racing the boss of the crew that currently claims that district. There are 3 crews to worry about right now: Kenji's Bushido, Wolf's TFK, and Angie's 21st Street. There is a 4th crew in the city, but they won't become a factor until the other 3 crews are taken care of. There are also a few minor crews, but they're not particularly noteworthy. I decided that now was the time to customize my car. Most Wanted was a real letdown with the car customization, so Carbon's more fleshed out system is a pleasant surprise. The vinyl editor is huge, letting you layer and transform basic shapes to create your own designs. There is also part customization in this game, but I don't have it unlocked yet, so I'll talk more about it later. With my car all dolled up, it's time to race. The races available to you at this stage are defined by which car you selected to start. In short, your car selection determines which part of the city you'll conquer first, so having selected the RX-8, I'll be taking on Kenji's Bushido, who also drive tuners. Right now, only one section is unlocked, meaning I have 3 races available to me: a sprint, a circuit, and a speed trap. Sprints and circuits are familiar to all racing fans, so I won't explain them, but speed traps are unique. Because I am extraordinarily lazy, I'm going to defer to myself from my last video for an explanation. Speed trap races aren't won by the first racer across the line, but by the racer with the highest score at the end of the race. Points are earned by passing through designated speed trap locations at a high speed. The first driver across the finish line will have their score set, and then the rest will have their score slowly decremented until they also cross the finish line. The winner is the racer with the highest score after the final car finishes. After completing any one of the 3 races, Kenji and his crew roll up on you and Neville.
I heard you were back in town. Now I want to hear you're gone.
I'm pretty sure a text message would have been a more effective use of everyone's time here. Complete one more race and you'll conquer this section, unlocking 2 more sections to race in, one of which includes a new race type, the drift race. Drift races were a notable exclusion from Most Wanted, and it's kind of incomprehensible that they chose not to include them in that game. You accrue points by drifting, with bonuses delivered based on your speed and proximity to the wall. Chaining drifts together increments your multiplier, so back-to-back high-speed drifts near the wall are worth the most. You do, however, have to be careful, because if you crash into a wall, your drift ends. This game is significantly better off for having drift races in it, even if they are way too easy. Kenji and his boys showed up to flirt with me again after I declared myself Drift King.
I don't know what's more pathetic, your crew or your car.
New mechanic alert. It's time for a defense rakafata. Rasfut. Defense rakft. From time to time, your territory can be challenged by minor crews. You have to complete the designated race to defend your turf. Declining to defend grants that race to the attacking gang. If you lose control of 2 races in a section, you lose control of that section. I like this mechanic, but it's used way too often. It gets annoying when you feel like you have to follow every race with a defense race. I think that the developers realized that Most Wanted was way too long of a game, so they tried to scale this one back, but overcorrected and made it way too short, and then they tried to pad the game out a little bit by cranking the defense race frequency way too high. Ironically, this would mean that the devs tried to fix the tedium by shortening the game, and then fix the length by introducing tedium. After winning 5 races, another cutscene will play.
Darius asked me to come by and see how you were doing. Neville, why don't you go get me something to drink?
Sure, what, like a soda or something?
How about some options?
Okay.
Looks like you cleaned the place up a bit. You've been generating quite a bit of buzz, you know. But you're not fooling me. What I'm trying to figure out is why you haven't skipped town yet. May I introduce Sal Mostella?
Hi. Nikki said that you might be looking for a new wingman. You don't know me, but, well, I know you. I'm a big fan. I've seen all your races.
And on that note, I'll be out of here.
See, things ain't been the same since you've gone, you know? There's a lot of posers, no respect. I know all the back streets. I grew up in these alleys. I can customize anything. I practically built all the kits you see around this place, so...
Okay, so I got soda and water. Where'd you go?
I'll even put up with this guy.
Okay, buddy. This guy, this one right here, is gonna try to pull a power move on my boy Neville. Get fucked, bro. You can join the crew, but know your place.
At the bottom of the pyramid!
Sal is the second crew member that you get access to, and notably, his skill is Fabricator. Remember when I said that I'd talk about customizable parts later? Guess what time it is. Having a Fabricator in your crew grants access to part auto-sculpting. Auto-sculpting lets you set the size of various components using sliders. Between auto-sculpting and the vinyl editor, Carbon's customization experience blows most wanteds out of the water. After claiming your second section, you'll gain access to the remaining sections in the district. The next race that I chose to do was my first race in the canyon. You get a brief cinematic to establish the setting, and then the downhill blitz begins. This game does a lot of things well, even relative to most wanted, but the canyon is far and away the coolest part of the game. The narrow 2-lane road and frequent hairpin turns create intense and unforgiving races, punctuated by the drumline score. Just listen. So yeah, the canyon kicks ass, but it's not just sprint races that take place there. The downhill drift races are even more insane. In canyon drift events, some of the concrete barriers are replaced with destructible fences, meaning too much speed will send you plummeting. The narrow roads and tight turns that I mentioned before are even more of a factor during drift races, forcing precise execution. After conquering all of the first district, I got my shot at Kenji. Boss challenges are 2-legged events, with the first leg being a city race. Kenji's first leg was a circuit, and it didn't give me any trouble. During the boss races, headshot views of the boss sometimes appear in the corner to gloat when you crash or whatever. You just want to punch them in their stupid faces. After the city race comes a canyon duel. I said before that the canyon is far and away the best part of this game, but I think it's also worth mentioning that the canyon duels are far and away the best part of the canyon. A canyon duel is a 2-stage event. In the first run, you chase the defending boss. The closer you manage to follow them, the more points you'll score. Once you reach the finish line, you'll both run the same route again, but this time you will lose points based on how close the boss manages to tail you. If you reach the finish line the second time with a positive score, you win the duel. If the leader in either stage is passed for more than 10 seconds, they lose. If the follower falls too far behind for more than 10 seconds, they lose. If either car falls off the cliff, they lose. It may seem like the meta involves doing everything possible to pass, and to an extent that's true, but if you collide with the leader, you lose 5,000 points, which is a nice balancing factor. Conversely, if the boss collides with you while you're leading, you gain 5,000 points, which you can use to your advantage if you're willing to risk being passed. Duels are crazy intense and usually come down to the wire during the second stage. Much like Most Wanted, defeating a boss allows you to select 2 markers. You can select unique aesthetics or mystery markers. One possible mystery marker is the pink slip to the boss's car, so I, like most people, only select mystery markers. Fortunately, I got Kenji's RX-7, which is a tier 2 car. Each car in this game has a tier, with the 3rd tier being the highest. Your car's tier will define the tier of cars that you race against, as well as the tier of your wingman's car. Obviously, higher tier cars are higher performance cars. Defeating each boss also unlocks a new crew member. Basically, after you demonstrate your dominance, one of the boss's disgruntled crew members defects to your crew. After defeating Kenji, you unlock Yumi.
I have a secret. Thought you'd like to know. I was there that night you left. I was up a fire escape. You can see pretty good up there. You can hear things too.
Unit 4, you're confirmed for a 1046 on suspects Bravo, Charlie, and Delta. Suspect Alpha driving a blue Toyota is a non-action. Repeat, suspect
Then the cops step out and hit every car. But the blue one, yours. I didn't make any sense of that. Somebody interfered in a big way, And now you need a good crew to pick up the pieces.
Conquering an area socially obligates you to host a large race that spans all of your new territory. These are called, race wars. Yeah, so these race wars are long and unfun. On PC, the number of entrants is 12, whereas on PS3 and Xbox 360, the maximum size is actually 20, so race wars probably are more fun on console than on PC. And like, yeah, I've been a console gamer, now I'm a PC gamer, I've seen both sides here. It doesn't surprise me at all that race war is a more popular idea for console players. I don't do race wars. My next move was to infiltrate 21st Street territory. After completing a race, Angie arrives to welcome you to the neighborhood.
Yeah, I heard you were in town. Go back where you came from.
Angie's crew all drive muscle cars. They look really cool, but they're useless in almost every racing game in existence. I know fuck all about real racing, so I don't know if that's realistic, but it is a pity. After conquering my first section of Angie's territory, Darius tracked me down.
You got it, kid. I always said you did. Now the others are starting to believe too. Don't give up now, you're close.
Man, Darius is a great guy. I'm glad he's on my side. There is absolutely no way that that statement could age poorly. Before my next race, I get another Darius cutscene.
Sure about that? I don't know. I'll see you later.
Darius, what are you doing? A few more races and he's gonna have more territory than you.
Well, hey, good for him. He should be cleaning up his rep. And he's taking care of my business for me. He owes us. Both of us.
You're using him.
I'm not using him. I'm the only one who knows what he's capable of. Let's get into it. I know races are one on the track.
A couple more races and Angie is back.
You think you're making a name for yourself. Keep racing through my territory and I'll waste you and your reputation.
Then Nikki meets up with you for a quick chat.
Drive. I remember. I was standing right over there. It was so close. I knew you were gonna win. Then things went crazy. This guy knocks me over. I tried to get up, but he held me down. I thought he was protecting me. I couldn't make it, so I gave you the bag. If what you're saying is true and the bag was switched, then I don't know how it could have happened. Why didn't you ever tell me about the missing money? If the bag was switched, then that's where it happened. Let's get out of here.
Okay, so this is probably some of the lamest exposition I have ever seen. She is essentially repeating to you, the player, what you, the player character, have previously told her. I don't need award-winning writing in my racing games, but please give me something better than this. With no segue whatsoever, I'm going to talk about the game's setting for a little bit. If you liked the setting of the underground games, but didn't care for the setting in Most Wanted, then Carbon is probably back in your wheelhouse. It's one of the cities of lights that have become synonymous with the street racing aesthetic. Palmont is an opulent, gaudy city, analogous in many ways to Las Vegas. It is beautiful to drive through, but other than the canyons, there aren't many locations that are particularly memorable. Most Wanted had obvious aesthetic differences between areas, with downtown Rockport being distinct from waterfront Rockport, being distinct from industrial Rockport, and so on. Palmont City's partitions each have their own visual style, but the differences are a lot more subtle. It also lacks any hyper-memorable locations like Most Wanted's golf course or the highway tunnel. Overall, the setting is good, not great. A few more races, and I challenge Angie. I don't really have anything to say about Angie's city race. Like with Kenji, I cleaned this one up pretty handily. I don't have a ton to say about her canyon duel either, except that she drove off the cliff in the first stage, so I won by default. Moral of the story, muscle cars are literal garbage in racing games. With Angie probably dead, I was contacted by one of her former crew members.
Well, nice of you to show. Listen, I know you're looking to clear your rep, and you're gonna need some help in order to do that. It's just the race. That night you took off, there was something seriously out of whack. I was there too.
I showed up at the line just to check things out. Everyone was talking about you. Then the 5-0 were everywhere. Then I see the alley's clear. He lets you go and shuts it up. And the guy driving, he's got a badge on his belt. Bottom line is, the Heat had an agenda and you took the fall.
That's all there is to it. Thing is, I can see him coming a mile away. Not only will I block him in, but I can mix it up with him too.
So Samson joins your crew. Next up for me was taking on Wolf's TFK. Like with Angie and Kenji, winning a race in Wolf's territory prompts a brief rendezvous with the head honcho himself.
So, how long did it take you to spend all that money you took from me?
Wolf is by far the cringiest of the crew bosses on account of his stupid coat and the fact that he's a grown man calling himself Wolf. Win a few more races and you two meet up again.
I think you're mistaken. This area is for serious drivers, not thieves and cowards.
Finish conquering TFK territory for your chance at Wolf. There's nothing really to say about either of Wolf's races, except that he didn't drive off the cliff. Like with the other two bosses, defeating Wolf unlocks a new crew member.
Look, I just want to race. That's all I ever wanted. If you're still looking to make good on the past, I might be able to help you with that too. It was a big night you left. Got pretty crazy, real quick. I was playing it cool. Then I see Nikki knocked down. Could have sworn that the guy who knocked her down, the same bag. I can help you guys out. I'm one of the best drivers in this city, and you know it.
Actually, Colin, I know fuck all about you, but welcome to the crew. Darius wants to meet up for a quick chat too.
Everything out. You just couldn't leave good enough alone, could you? We were making bundles of cash, you were clearing your name. What more could you want? Well, things have progressed a little further now than I thought possible, and I'm gonna have to cash you out. Mr. Crawl! Come on. I didn't let you take my money the first time. What makes you think this is any different? You actually thought that I would front you the cash to save you from this loser? Then sit around while you were encroaching on my territory? Greed's always been your problem. You've got a lot to learn about the big times, little man. This city is mine, and it's time for you to disappear again.
It's Cross.
goes right to my place. Show's over.
Thanks. Glad you changed your mind.
I'm just a bounty hunter. And I always get paid. Just make sure I do.
Look, I hate it when people say I told you so. So here goes. It seems that some of your team was there the night that you left. They tell a different story than the one I've been hearing from Darius. Thing is, their stories seem to add up. Somebody tipped off the cops. Somebody let you escape. And somebody switched the bag. Now I know who that somebody was. Darius likes to pull the strings. Now here's something he doesn't know about. Part of the deal with Cross is that I race with you. Think you can handle that? You're not the only one with a score to settle. Now, let's get out of here. We got a lot of ground to catch up.
Now Nikki has joined your crew. She's the last recruit, meaning at this point, your crew is finalized. You may be asking, wait, but earlier you said that the three bosses were Kenji, Angie, and Wolf. How do we take on Darius if we already conquered all of the areas? To which I would respond that that's kind of a stupid question because there were 4 districts on the map, one of which has been inaccessible to this point, so it should have been obvious that we're now going to race in that last district. I don't want to discourage you from asking questions by any means, but please, put more thought into your queries in the future. So, final quarter-ish of the game, we're aiming to take down Darius and his crew, stacked deck. The races here are a lot longer than most of the races so far, and they're a lot more challenging. Really, I would say that this is the only part of the game that is challenging. There were a number of races from this point forward that I had to run a couple of times in order to win. Before the first race of the district, there's another cutscene.
Yeah. What? Nikki did that. Fine. I'm gonna need a crew that's motivated.
Darius hired Kenji, somehow not dead Angie, and Wolf to his crew. I'm not totally sure that I understand the rationale here, considering I've already objectively demonstrated that I can outrace them, but whatever. Those 3 will be among the other drivers in some of the remaining races. Winning the first race, it's now Darius's turn for an impromptu harassment session.
You think you know this town? You have no idea what's in store for you other than it's gonna hurt.
From here on out, it's just the same formula as the rest of the game so far. Win races to conquer sections, conquer all of the sections to control the district. In order to challenge Darius, you have to defeat the other 3 bosses in both a downhill sprint and a city sprint. This might have been the hardest part of the game for me, but that's partially because the Lamborghini I was rocking had dog shit handling. I've created this handy chart to help you know when to use a Lamborghini in racing games. After once again establishing your dominance over the 3 musketeers, you get your shot at Darius. 15 seconds ago, I said that the races against the boss trio might have been the hardest part of the game for me, but that was a lie. I lied to you because I don't respect you. It was actually the Darius races. I had to replay them both several times each. Again, the Lamborghini is dog shit and I am the most gifted player of all time in any game, so this is not my fault. Fortunately, the races are hard enough to be rewarding, but not so hard that you end up frustrated. Bravo to the team for nailing the finale. The canyon duel in particular was just perfect. With Darius's defeat, we get the final cutscene.
The keys are in the car. Enjoy it while it lasts. There's always someone out there who's a little faster than you are. And sooner or later, they're gonna catch up.
While I do get schadenfreude from Darius's expression, I have to admit that compared to Most Wanted's ending, this one is a little disappointing. Most Wanted ends with Razor's arrest, but Darius gets to just drive off into the night. It would have been much better if they executed him. It's time to complain. The game crashed and froze constantly. I had to install a third-party fix, and that only partially solved the problem. It would be disingenuous of me to hide the fact that I flew the Jolly Roger to play this game, and maybe that caused some of the issues, but I didn't have a choice. The game isn't available for digital download otherwise, so my only other option was to buy a PS3, an Xbox 360, or an optical drive, and then get the game on disc, which I'm not going to do. I have a job. 5 days a week, I exchange 8 hours of my time for money.
Money can be exchanged for goods and services.
I would like to trade my money, and by proxy, my time, for access to this game, but there is no means through which such a transaction can be conducted. Let me buy your fucking game, EA. At the beginning of the video, I referenced the fact that this game is basically just a reskin of Most Wanted, and I wasn't joking. The mechanics are so obviously the same that I would call it a carbon copy, but I wouldn't want anyone thinking that I was attempting wordplay. I have too much self-respect for that. I do think there's wordplay afoot, but I'm not the perpetrator. Carbon has absolutely nothing to do with this game. Outside of the carbon fiber parts, you could replace every instance of the word carbon in this game with any other word and it wouldn't make any difference. Most Wanted is named as such because you are trying to become the most wanted racer. That makes sense, but carbon is literally just a word here. I think it's a giant middle finger to the fans and/or a tongue-in-cheek way of referencing the fact that this game is just a palette swap. And if you're thinking that this sounds ridiculous because there's no way the devs would use a name that is this painfully on the nose, remember that Darius, the guy who set you up to screw you over, runs a crew called Stacked Deck. So fuck you. In my opinion, the fact that this is a reskin is made most obvious by the police chases. Really, it's the fact that this game has police chases at all. Unlike with Most Wanted, police chases are entirely irrelevant to the game itself. Outside of the first chase at the end of Act 1, there are 0 required chases. If you get lucky with RNG, you can finish the entire game without being involved in a single other pursuit. And I know this for a fact because I did exactly that. I think it's very likely that while this game was being developed, someone consciously decided that even though the police chases weren't going to be used for anything, they were going to be in the game anyways because they weren't worth the time to remove. That is, it would have been more work to not have police chases in this game because Most Wanted already had police chases, and this game is just Most Wanted by any other name. Here's an extremely minor gripe that I need to express. The minimap no longer displays your race route. Here's the minimap during a race in Most Wanted. Here it is during a race in Carbon. Why? The territory and crew mechanics are cool ideas, but the execution on both is really half-baked. For the territory thing, it is somewhat understandable. Even though it's a racing game, it does require a framework through which progression can be understood. For Most Wanted, that framework was the blacklist, and for Carbon, it's the territory mechanic. I guess I'm just disappointed because I think that a lot could have been done with this. I'm very into management and simulation games, so when you give me a map and divide it up for conquering, my imagination starts to run wild. The execution of the crews is a lot less reasonable to me. It seems like the territory mechanic was decided on first, and then this crew mechanic was sort of a necessary byproduct of that decision, and that they didn't flesh out the crew mechanic any further than was absolutely necessary. Imagine you were one of the game's designers, and your boss told you that progression will involve acquiring territory, and now you have to finish that idea before the weekend, and it's currently 4:45 on a Friday. Okay, well, obviously territory is held by crews, not individuals, so you start with that. If you have a crew, you naturally should be able to race alongside your crew members, so better throw that in there. It wouldn't make sense to have all of the crew members be identical, so let's include 3 types of crew members, none of which will have any meaningful impact on the game. That's it. That's the whole idea. There is nothing here beyond the bare minimum necessary to make the territory mechanic make sense. Again, I love management games, so this hurt my soul. Despite the handful of letdowns, I love this game. In my Most Wanted video, I said that Carbon is probably a better game, and now that I've replayed it, I think I'd safely say that it is. There are no revolutionary changes here, It just does everything a little bit better, and that makes up for the limited police presence. It's like 5 hours tops, so I'd be pretty bummed if I spent $60 on it in 2006, but spending $0 on it in 2022 is much more palatable. If you plan to acquire the game, use a VPN. This isn't an ad or anything, I just got a DMCA notice when I downloaded it. Anyways, thanks for watching.